Welcome to r/slash Nuclearrevenge, where revenge goes radioactive. The background. Midway through my senior year at college, my father got the privilege of opening the first plant in China when his company was granted permission. He was getting everything, and I mean everything. Business class on airfare, a penthouse, recognition in the company for being effectively in charge of the project, mingling with higher-ups in the company, the works. This was exciting news for him because he was close to retirement and it seemed that his hard work was finally paying off. My mom was happy because now with my younger brother starting college and me about to graduate, she and her husband of over 30 years could enjoy their empty nest. She loves us dearly, but she called my father her soulmate and wanted to spend their golden years together. However, things turned upside down in less than a year. Maybe the power went to his head. Maybe he was overwhelmed and stressed out with having to start a new life in a new country. Or maybe it brought out the ugliness that was already in his soul. I have no clue. I finished my senior year around Christmas time, only to see my father pack up his bags and leave us, saying he didn't want to be married to my mom anymore and was seeing someone else. To say the rug had been pulled out from under our feet was an understatement. It was like everything we'd ever known had imploded. My father left us shortly before Christmas, and we started putting the pieces back together. I started working 2 jobs and slipping money into my mom's wallet because I was terrified my father would cut off our money. It was during this time we started therapy, and all 3 of us came to the realization that this man had been emotionally, verbally, and financially abusing us for years. It's something I'm still trying to work through and doubt I'll ever fully recover. Come springtime, my father had a change of heart. He contacted us and started making amends. Something in me was suspicious and held back, but I was happy because Mom was happy. She'd lost a lot of weight, was crying constantly, and was all in all miserable. He returned home for a 2-week vacation and then proposed a 3rd honeymoon, if you will. He and Mom would return to China to work things out. My brother and I were staying back home as we were both busy with work and school. Mom and father left us with some important numbers to call in case of an emergency. The email address of my father's immediate supervisor, whom I'll call Stan, and weekly Skype sessions so we could stay in touch. Mom and father left for China and it seemed that everything would work out. 2 weeks later, it was time for our weekly Skype session. The first week had been fine, and my brother and I were expecting to hear another good report. Instead of that, Mom was alone, her eyes swollen and her face red. I immediately went into mama bear mode and asked my mom in a voice that probably scared my brother and Mom, "What happened?" Mom, crying, tells us that after making the rounds with the higher-ups, my father had packed his bags, told her he was going to Shanghai for 2 weeks with his girlfriend, and then told Mom, "I want you gone by the time I get back." Mom, floored by this, asked him how. My father said, "I don't care how." Then he left my mother in the penthouse with little food, no clean water to drink. We'd been warned to never drink the water in China because it was nasty to say the least, and no way to navigate through a country where she didn't speak the language or get away home. She said, "I think he was using me to look good at work. Everyone was saying they were glad we were working out our problems." When I heard that, my fury boiled. I am fiercely protective of my family and friends. You can do whatever you want to me, but make any of my family members or friends cry and you'll learn why it's a bad idea to pick on them. As much as I wanted to fly over to China, track down my father and his mistress, and make them feel every ounce of pain that my mother was feeling, I knew that wasn't a smart or practical idea. Instead, I'd have to embarrass him so everyone knew what a scumbag he is. And an idea came to mind. The plan. After getting the information I needed from Mom and calming her down, I worked on the first part of my plan. Bringing Mom home. I didn't have any money, nor did I have a visa to visit. However, I did have Stan's email. Using the skills I honed from my creative writing and general business studies, I wrote a lengthy email to Stan, crying over the keyboard as I drafted it. I explained who I was, what was going on, and that I was worried for Mom. I asked him to please help me find a way to reach my mom and bring her home. I promised him that I would repay every penny, even if it took the rest of my life. I added my personal email and phone number as a finishing touch and asked him to contact me if he had any other questions. After making sure it was perfect, a key lesson from my creative writing professor: make sure your writing is razor sharp. I sent it off along with a prayer that it would work. Stan never did return my email, but 24 hours later, Mom was safely home. I learned that Stan had gotten in contact with my mom within an hour of me sending the email, verified everything that had happened, and gotten her home on the first flight. I sent him another email, thanking him for helping us and told him I would repay the expense when I could. That time, he did respond and said, "It's alright, thank you though." That was the extent of our conversation, but I'm still very grateful to him for helping Mom, out of his own pocket if I'm not mistaken. He's earned my respect, and I hope, wherever he is, he's doing well. When Mom got home, it sunk in for us that the marriage was truly over and we made plans to move on. They were divorced within a year and we moved to Florida for a fresh start, maybe a few years later. Mom found the new love of her life, who I call my stepdad, is working her dream job, something that never would have happened under my father, and is happier than I've seen her in a long time. My brother and I both are making our way in the world and finding ourselves after spending our lives as our father's perfect children. As time passed, I actually forgot about the email. Until recently, when Mom and I were talking about Stan and she revealed what had happened. The aftermath. I was just hoping to humiliate my father. Instead, my email launched massive legal and financial headaches for my father. Right after helping my mom get home, Stan decided that my father's behavior was worrying, because if he's using his wife to hide the fact he has a mistress, what else is he hiding? And started an investigation into my father. What he learned was mind-blowing. Not only was his mistress one of his subordinates, which is strictly against company rules for reasons I can't remember, but he had another mistress on the side, both of whom he was plying with expensive gifts and vacations, to name a few. But that wasn't the topper. What was the evidence that my father might have been embezzling money from the company during his time in China. However, for reasons that I don't know, criminal charges were out of the question. Instead, what they did to him, my father no doubt thinks, was even worse. My father was immediately demoted and sent home. His name was removed from the factory he had built and his mistresses fired. Now, with this company, most of the promotions come not from what you know, but who you know. And since Stan knows many people, eventually, my father was forced to retire early before they fired him. He decided he had been discriminated against and tried to sue the company for unlawful termination. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming and he lost. Now he's disgraced, hated by nearly everyone, and with limited contact with his family and friends. He's still convinced that he's an innocent victim and that time will prove him right, but everyone knows the truth. All I have to say about this one is Stan is the man. Our next Reddit post is from Rory. I was a clerical assistant for a firm in my city. The firm was a small one of 9 employees that also had clerks who would intern from time to time. I worked there part-time during my junior and senior year, then full-time after I graduated. I made it about 4 months before I was told to resign. This was my first ever business formal job, as we had lots of client face-to-face. The clients were big. Fire department, police department, etc. I was brought on by work study from my university and at first really enjoyed working for the firm. I had an amazing mentor that taught me all there is to know about this side of the business. He pretty much kept the firm running and put in so much effort that when he interviewed me, I thought he was the owner of the firm and not just a staff member above me. Anyways, as this was my first job, I wasn't keen on office politics or good at recognizing my surroundings with peers. After I started working full-time, I began to catch on and see what was going on behind the scenes. The partners of the firm were scumbags. They treated all the staff like monkeys and showed no appreciation. They were both male and constantly harassed the female staff and interns. So often that the turnover rate was so high that there were new interns every few weeks. There were cliques inside of the firm. The attorneys banded together with the office manager and the HR manager. The interns stuck together and I was with my mentor. For the most part, we were able to stick together and get our work done and turn out good work product. But it was hard to watch the harassment of the interns, the social gossip circles of the cliques, and blatant disregard for the staff. Soon after, an intern complained to HR that one of the partners slapped her butt and called her vulgar names. The HR manager, attorneys, and office manager gaslighted this poor intern so bad that she was an emotional wreck when she just walked out and quit. That was the point my mentor and I had had enough. After seeing this, we started to take pictures, notes, and gather statements of everything we could see that was going on inside the firm that was illegal. After a huge firm event that involved many hours of overtime, close quarters, and pressure, a breaking point was hit and the staff was exploded upon by the attorneys and managers. After the event, all of the employees went out to a local club to relax and throw back a few drinks and cool off. This was not something that you would think people in this field would do, especially when the average age of the employees in the firm was over 45. After the attorneys started getting sloppy drunk, the interns and my mentor took off to go home for the night. I stayed, but went to party with my friend group that was also out for a night in the same club. I bounced back a few times between groups and dancing, but near the end of the night, I came back to check on my coworkers. And what I saw was shocking. They rented out a VIP stage and had bottle service all night. When I walked up to the stage, I saw the two partners grinding on associate attorneys, fondling them, and taking turns making out with them. I was disgusted and started to hatch my plan. Not only is that a conflict of interest in my state and type of law, but both partners were married with kids. And so were 3 out of the 4 other female attorneys and staff. I got one of the promoters that was my roommate at the time to get the club rep to take photos of them doing this, but also to send them to me. I snapped a few on my phone and left the club. Before we went out, we all stopped at a hotel room close by that was rented out by the partners of the firm. I went back after I left the club, and since I was an employee of the firm, I was able to convince the front desk to let me back into the room as I was there a few hours earlier, and was working with them to pick up/drop off things for the event. After I was let in, I started to take pictures of everything that I could find. I emptied drawers, bags, and closets and was able to take pictures of many drugs, adult toys, and things like IDs that were left behind earlier. The following Monday, I go into the HR office and tell the manager that I was uncomfortable with what I saw the partners doing, what they'd done in the office, and how everyone exploding on me and my mentor at the event was unacceptable. Immediately after I left the HR office, the manager ran into the partners' offices and closed the door. I could hear screaming coming through the door and booked it over to my mentor's office to fill him in. After I blurred out what happened and what kind of pictures I got, the partners and HR manager run into my mentor's office and overhear us talking about what happened nights before. They immediately tell us to resign and to pack our things as they were worried about our hostile work environment and what it's doing to the firm. I'm on the verge of tears and don't know what to do next. My mentor quietly asked for our termination letters, all of our pay stubs, all of our billable hour entries from when we started, and my university work-study paperwork. The HR manager was shocked by this, but legally had to produce all these things for us upon request. After 2 hours of data compiling, my mentor and I walked out with all of our things. We ended up going to a bar with all the paperwork we just got and started to plan our revenge. We compiled all of our timesheets, billed hours, and all my work-study paperwork. Not only did I upload all the pictures to separate email accounts to send to the respective spouses of the attorneys, but we found out that the partners and managers muddled with our billable hours to charge them to a higher rate to bill our clients more, even though a clerical assistant and paralegal were drafting and filing pleadings. Through my work study, they reported that they were paying me $18 an hour total, while paying me $6 an hour from their pockets, and my school was fronting the other $12 as reimbursement. Not only on my pay stub was my hourly rate $12, I nor the firm was being taxed for the other $6. Instead, it was being pocketed straight by the firm. After a complete and thorough compilation of documents, my mentor and I set out the next day to complain to the State Bar Association to show that the attorneys at the firm committed malpractice, misrepresentation of funds, harassment, and conflicts of interest. Their spouses were emailed all of the photos of the night out clubbing and what was found in the hotel rooms. My university was informed of the misuse of funds. I applied for unemployment based on their false misconduct firings. After 2 weeks of job searching, my mentor and I got picked up at another firm as a package deal. We became close after, and we constantly see each other every other week on a personal basis. Months into working the new job did we decide to snoop on the old firm that we set out to destroy. Not only did 4 of the attorneys lose their legal license, they were sued by the Bar Association and L&I for fraud. Their spouses were all involved with divorce proceedings, and the managers' reputations were ruined by what was brought to light and what they covered up. My mentor and I ended up pulling all of the Superior Court submissions to read over what documents were submitted in court, and they were caught lying in declarations they submitted. It felt real nice to be vindicated by ruining their relationships, jobs, and business. Thanks for reading. Criminals like this blow my mind. Why would you commit financial crimes over $6? Is that really worth losing your business, your life, your freedom over? That was rSlash and if you like this content, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.